Welcome to Scare Confident. I'm your host, Tiffany Sauder. Okay, so this episode is about JR and his experience with marriage counseling. Invariably, when I talk about my journey or share with an audience that our marriage went through a really hard time and that we went to marriage counseling, it is probably the contact information that I give out the most. People will message me over LinkedIn or just reach out and ask me, like, what did you guys do? Where did you go? What was it like? Did you both want to go? Did it fix everything? Just a bunch of questions. And so I'm recording this episode kind of as a resource, even for me to share. When I get questions like this, I can say, hey, go listen to this episode. I've kind of dumped my brain. If we can be helpful, if there's other questions, let me know. But it just kind of also, I think, tells the whole story as we're kind of double clicking into JR and I's journey, celebrating 20 years. I feel like it's authentic to also talk about the fact that it wasn't always perfect. And last week, if you listened in our marriage check-in for the second year in a row, we quantitatively pick a number between 1 and 10, and we say where we think our marriage is at. And for 2 years in a row, he said a 6. And we had some really good conversations that are best left private after that recording, because I said, who wants to be in a 6 year after year after year after year? Like, I need to know more about this. I have more questions. What does a 6 mean to you? And again, I don't want to go into this on the microphone because this is a private conversation between he and I. But I will tell you that the tools that we learned in marriage counseling have provided a foundation to be able to walk into difficult conversations, I think I know better than we could do it before. And so it's been a big part of our toolbox to stay together. It's been a big part of just, I think, maturing into our relationship as two highly motivated, just people that have big dreams, and we can both be difficult in different ways. And we know that. I know that. And so I'll do my best to represent at least my side of the story on this. I'll share some things that I believe to be true for JR, but he's not going to be in this episode with me. So anyways, marriage counseling. So it would have been, I don't know if the year is totally relevant, but I think it was in 2019 that we went, or the end of 18, possibly. End of 18 maybe was when it was. And we were going through a really hard time. And we had tried going to marriage counseling like in Indianapolis and sitting down like in a 1 hour increment, where at the beginning you like get into a topic, and at the end you spend like the last 10 minutes like paying for the session and scheduling the next one. And in my memory, which may or may not be true, they were like Tuesdays at 3:00. And so I would be like doing my day. It'd be like, okay, I got to get in the car. I got to go across town. I've got to fight traffic. I've got to like park the car, get in there and like get into this space where it's like, okay, now I'm working on the most important thing in my life, my marriage, and my brain is breaking. It's in the middle of the day. I've got 10,000 other things that I'm trying to solve and I'm thinking about. And we were both running, teams. And it was just like, oh my word. I felt like we were making a snail's pace of progress because it was just happening in and around all of our life. And I just was like, I think nervous that we weren't going to make the progress that we needed to make as fast as we needed to make it to be able to really get back to us. And I just felt like I was like just bleeding on center stage. Like, we're going through this, our marriage is not in a good place. And I'm like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. And I was just like, I need more progress than this. This is like not working for me. And so I was literally up late one night praying and Googling and just trying to figure out like, what do we do? And I came across this organization called Hope Restored is the name of what we went to, Hope Restored. And it is a marriage intensive. So we did the 3 nights, 4 days, I believe was the duration. And they say it's the equivalent of 6 to 9 months of therapy condensed down into, it was 3 or 4 full days of therapy. So we did the 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, where it was he and I, just kind of give you the construct of kind of how it worked. And then I'll talk a little bit about how we got, I don't know, just some things. But we'll start with that. So it's called Hope restored. And we went to the one in Branson, Missouri. So they have 2 or 3 different locations. And it's like a retreat center. Like you're in the middle of nowhere. Your cell phone doesn't work. You eat your meals there. You sleep in like little cottages there. Your therapists are there. So it's very much like an intensive, like you're going to rehab. And when we pulled up, JR was like, I feel like we're going to juvie. And it did kind of feel like that. So the place is beautiful. The appointments are very like nice, but you are in the like way off the beaten path, and it is a retreat center. So it's not like you have quick access to things. And I'm pretty confident our phones didn't work. Like we were like off the grid. And the format of it is it was the 2 of us with 2 therapists. So we were always in the same room together. And we had 2 therapists that were with us and the 2 of us. And for 8 hours a day, we dug through our pile of crap. And we both learned about one another. We both better understood our upbringings and childhoods. We both better understood and had vocabulary for what we wanted our relationship to look like. And, you know, like in a normal therapy environment, you just kind of start peeling back the layers and understanding yourself better. We got some shared vocabulary that became really important for how to listen better for one another. And again, I don't know that this episode is really about talking about specifically like the practices that we learned, but more about the, I think, fairly peculiar experience that is this marriage intensive. And we have friends and family who have gone through it, and it's just like a way to fast forward this process when you're like going through something really difficult and you feel like this is a big problem that merits a really big response. And I need to get into this quickly because I can't just pick through this huge, like I felt like I'm picturing like this huge bag filled with 10 million Christmas tree needles, and you're taking out 4 at a time versus I need like a big scoop and I need to be able to take a bunch of these out at a time because we're never going to get through this. That was how it felt when we were just meeting 1 week at a time, 1 week at a time. I was just like dying. So that was the format and kind of what it looked like. We did go like off site for dinner. You could eat on site or it's not like you can't, you're grown-ups and you're there under your own free will. So it's not like you can't do whatever you want to do, but you are there to kind of do some work. So you want to engage in what you're paying for. My recollection is that it was like $5,000 or $6,000. So it's not $0 at all. But again, we needed to invest in us. And I was like, it was going to take several sessions for us to get through what we were working through. So that was about the price of it. So one of the questions that I get a lot was, did we both want to go? And what I would say is like, clearly you're both adults and you, like a police officer is not going to take you. You need to go under your own free will. Like that's part of the whole thing. But when you fill out the input paperwork, really the primary questions are, you have to answer that, are you open to your like marriage working? Like both of you have to say that we're open to that. Because if one person is not open to that, then like the treatment obviously, or like the therapy is going to go in a different direction if one person just does not want to be there. But I would say I was the one who put it on the table, and I was the one who did the research, and I was the one who like pushed the button to add to cart and sign us up and called the number for more information. But JR was very much understood why I was like recommending that we go do this. So he wasn't like the instigator of it, but he was definitely like supportive of it. And when you're really busy making those dates work, because it's not like it happens every single day of the year. It's like you have to like force it on your calendar, and there's going to have to be some things that move aside, and you're going to need some support from your community to watch your kids because you can't take them with you, obviously. So in that sense, we, leaned on our families to help us, and he was definitely supportive of us going. He wasn't like, hey, I think that we need to go do something different than go to weekly therapy, but he was super supportive of us going and like recognized, yeah, we've got to work through some things. I think one of the things that is part of the experience that they don't like certainly espouse as a benefit on the website, but to me was part of us feeling like us again, was the fact that like going to this experience is completely new for both of you. And if I like go back to the very beginning of our relationship, that's like part of the excitement and part of the newness was that it's like totally new relationship, a totally new person. You're getting to know each other in new ways. You're like going to new places you haven't been together before, or you're going to familiar places, but you're going with that person. And so it feels new. And so there was this sense of like walking out on a tightrope together. And it took, I don't know, there was something about that very nature of us both getting in the car and being like, we are going to experience a thing that neither one of us really understand what's going to happen. Both of us, as very capable grown-ups, are giving ourselves over to this process that we really don't know what to expect. And I mean, Branson, Missouri from our house is a long drive. It's like, I think it's like 6 or 7 hours. So it's like this long drive. So you have a really long time to like think about it. And you're on this road trip. And just the whole sense of that to me was like the like very beginning of the whole experience being like us feeling just like connected in this new adventure together. And yes, it was, I don't know, it was like some of it was like, wow, we're really doing this. I can't believe my marriage is at a place where we need this kind of help. And also a sense of like hope. And I think the name Hope Restored is such a beautiful name for the whole experience because it is really restoring your belief, restoring your hope that this marriage and this version of yourself that you dreamed of when you were young or new in your marriage, like it is possible, and or at least some version of that is. So I don't know. That's a little bit about, I don't know, I guess my own experience. And I just felt like there was a sense of hope and belief and in a weird way, excitement. I think I don't mind doing hard things. I hate being in the unknown. And so it was like, okay, I have a plan. I know what to put my energy into. I know what to focus on. I kind of know what to win when we have a plan. So that was what that looked like. Other questions that I get, maybe this is relevant to share, is it has a Christian worldview in this Hope Restored. Whether you need to be a committed Christian or not to attend is a question to ask them. I don't actually know what their stance is on that. My husband and I both had chosen that as our, individual religions and just beliefs. So it was easy to get aligned behind that. Okay, so the other question I get is what happened afterwards. And well, I mean, like clearly we're still together, but they definitely recommend once you leave the intensive that you get additional, just like ongoing support. And I got a counselor that I met with online, like virtually once, I don't know, I think it started once a week and then moved to every other week. And I did that for a year. I like literally every single time it was on my calendar, I wanted to cancel it. It was never convenient. It always fell on a terrible day. And I just think that's how it goes when you're busy. And so keep it, make the appointment and keep the appointment. Most of the time I lock myself in my closet to have the session, which feels completely inconducive to like any kind of progress. But it was like really important for me to keep like doing some work, keep working through some things that I needed to. And it just gave me a place to kind of keep talking and keep learning. And I'm such an external processor that was a really important part of the journey for me. JR's looked differently. He picked just like trusted person in our lives that he stayed connected to and still does. I would say at the beginning, I was a little judgy of his choice, not because it's not an amazing person that I respect and love, but I felt like he should be doing it the same way that I was, which is like finding a qualified professional to, keep learning from. And it just looked differently for him. That's not what he needed. And he knew that. And I needed to kind of like get over myself a little bit, which is maybe a bit of a theme. And so he picked an individual that I knew that was the purpose of that relationship. And here we are like 6 years later, and he still talks to that individual at least once a month in just like an accountability framework and just a close relationship. So which one was right and which one was wrong? The point is that neither. They were both right. They were just solving differently. And I needed to just make space for that instead of being weird about him not doing it the way that I was doing it. So that's kind of what after looks like. Has our marriage been perfect since? Absolutely not. But I do feel like we have shared framework. We have shared vocabulary. We have a way of articulating to one another and with one another, like what great looks like for us and what we're working towards. And I think that was really helpful. And, what I learned, I think lots of tools in marriage counseling, but what I also learned, kind of two things, is like, you are still a whole person. You are first a whole person. And as whole people, we come into this relationship of marriage. And whenever we expect the other person to fill in gaps of our like wholeness, it doesn't work. Like it doesn't work. And there were things that I was expecting JR to be for me that he was never going to be able to be consistently. And there were things that he was expecting me to be for him that I was never going to be able to be for him consistently. And so that was a big just aha. I think particularly in like the Christian world, this idea of like two become one, it's like two halves make a whole. And that's not really how it is. Like, yes, two become one in the eyes of God, but us as individuals, as singular people on the planet, while we're underneath this covenant of marriage, I still am one whole person. And I think that was a big aha for me. And the other piece is that most of us who are in conflict in our marriages, there's like one thing that cycles in lots of different scenarios, but it's kind of this like core conflict that if you can solve that, it plays out in different ways in different vignettes in your life, but it's kind of this like core conflict that when you start to have the tools to be able to recognize it, to understand it, to stop the crazy cycle, and to put your like grown up self into that instead of your hurt, wounded child version of you, then the relationship can really move forward. So we do not have a perfect marriage. We have a more mature marriage than we had in 2018 when we were going through this. We have a much richer toolbox of things to navigate the complexity that is life. I mean, you're two complicated people trying to live life together in a way where you bring way more joy than pain to one another. And I think at marriage counseling, we were also just reminded that we really did want to be good for the other person. And we just had lost how to do that. And when you hurt, you become selfish. And when you hurt people, all those kinds of things. So anyway, this is a little double click. There's way more, I'm sure, that I could add to this, but this is a little double click into our journey with marriage counseling, specifically with the Hope Restored intensive. We'll put links in the show notes to Hope Restored if you're interested in it. And if it's something that would be important to you and it's not financially accessible, I would love for you to reach out to me. Selectively, JR and I do sponsor people to go to Hope Restored. We believe so much in it. And so if the financial aspect of it is the only reason you're not going, please reach out and we'll see if your situation is such that it would make sense for us to sponsor you. So thank you for listening to this. This may not be the episode that has the most amount of downloads on my feed, but I'm hopeful that if you're at a place where you're trying to figure out what to do because your marriage is at a place where it feels hopeless and not filled with hope, that maybe Hope Restored could be an option for you. So thanks for listening to this episode. I'm grateful that we are crossing 20 years and know that the next 20 years will have lots more growth and growing in it. So thanks so much. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Scared Confident. Until next time, keep telling fear, you will not decide what happens in my life. I will.